if you had watched Ketanji Brown, Ketanji the Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation hearings, basically you could see that the Republicans made jackasses of themselves, and now Lindsey Graham, who's a total fucking hypocrite on Judge Jackson and the child porn stuff, and you could basically, and we're gonna go into depth about why he's a fucking hypocrite. Lindsey Graham was an Air Force lawyer for over 30 years, and in the 30 years he was that he was a lawyer, he did nothing to fix the military leniency toward the child porn offenders. Now, Senator Lindsey Graham's overall performance during Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation hearings could be characterized as a nasty political theater, or a petty payback for perceived slights, basically for perceived slights that was endured by past Republican nominees. But when it comes to Graham's animated attacks against Judge Jackson's sentencing records of child pornographers, two words best fit this senator: total fucking hypocrite. He angrily parroted other Republicans. Graham attacked Jackson as she outlined her concerns with the federal sentencing guidelines for the child pornography possession and distribution. Jackson explained that the guidelines could result in 50 years in confinement for 15 minutes spent on a computer. Graham shot back, good, absolutely good. I hope you go to jail for 50 years if you're on the internet trolling for images of children. And Graham announced that he would vote against Jackson's confirmation in part because of her flawed sentencing methodology regarding child pornography cases. See, what he's failing to realize is that she doesn't set the amount of years that a person's going to serve. The judge does. So on the morning of the Senate's historic vote on Jackson's nomination, Graham joined other Republicans in a press conference to again complain about her sentencing record for child pornography convictions. He followed up by casting a no vote from a courtroom instead of being on the Senate floor. Is Lindsey Graham truly concerned about the perceived light child pornography sentences, or was this just a manufactured outrage? It is a fucking valid question because his record on oversight of the military justice system tells a completely different fucking story. Lindsey Graham has tremendous influence over the military's criminal justice system. He was an integral part of it as an Air Force uniformed lawyer with more than 30 years serving as a judge advocate, and he has also long served in Congress, including time on the Senate armed on what they call Services Committee. An examination of Graham's Air Force service, which included time as a prosecutor and appellate judge, demonstrates that he maintained close ties with the most senior members of the Air Force Judge Advocate General Corps. That's important there because one would therefore expect Graham to be intimately aware of how the military punishes child pornography offenders, in particular to those in the Air Force. One would also expect that if Graham did not like the comparatively short sentences such offenders receive in the military, which are typically much lighter than the ones handed down by Judge Jackson, he would have fucking done something about it. For example, he would have proposed legislation to create mandatory minimums for those convicted of child pornography in the military. He fucking did not. The federal system has used sentencing guidelines for the last 35 years, but the military has no such guidelines. And while Congress has finally mandated using sentencing parameters in the military, they won't go into effect for another 2 years. Moreover, like basically almost crimes in the military, child pornography offenses have no minimum sentencing requirements, and it includes no punishment as an authorized sentence for even the production of child pornography. And contrary to the federal system, no detailed pre-sentencing report is provided to a judge in military cases. Now, such reports are critical for judges in determining the severity of an offense and the recidivism risk of defendants. As a result of these procedural deficiencies, ones that Lindsey Graham could have worked to fix, military sentences skews extremely light. Now, for example, if we look at a review of the Air Force's court-martial results going back to January 2021, it shows the average airman received less than 10 months for possession of child pornography, with one offender receiving only 1 month of confinement, which is a far cry from the 50 years that Lindsey Graham claims is appropriate. Now, indeed, Judge Jackson would be revised as a draconian hammer in the institution where Graham served for 30 years, but the military's kid glove sentencing is compounded by the fact that military judges do not have the supervised release tools that are possessed by federal judges. Now, for example, like all federal judges, Jackson had and used the authority to subject offenders to lengthy conditions after being released from prison, including sex offender treatment, restrictions on accessing the internet, monitoring of their computer devices and smartphones, and no notice searches. These measures are, of course, designed to reduce recidivism. In contrast, after a military offender has served their court-martial sentence, they are subjected to no such restrictions. When a military officer is released from jail, there is nothing stopping them from going back, from going right back to searching for more child pornography. Now, this is particularly fucking troubling, as one expert has estimated that military veterans are 4 times more likely to be convicted of child pornography charges or sexual offenses against children than those who have never served. Now one need look no further than 2 cases involving Air Force colonels to see how much lighter the military treats child pornography than normally occurs in the civilian realm. Now, both colonels were caught with thousands of images of child pornography, but one was investigated and prosecuted by the Air Force, and the other was prosecuted by the federal justice system. The officer prosecuted by the Air Force was sentenced to only 1 year of jail time. The one sentenced by a federal judge received 5 years, followed by 15 additional years of supervised release. And now, in other words, the federal system produced a sentence 5 times more severe than the military's. And what has Senator Lindsey Graham fucking done? To address how leniently the military sentences of the military sentences that child pornography offenders get, has he proposed eliminating the no punishment sentencing option, imposing mandatory minimum sentences for child pornography offenders, authorizing the use of pre-sentencing reports, or giving military judges the same authority to place conditions on offenders after they served out their sentences? Has he either publicly or privately berated military leadership, or military judges for light child pornography offenses? No. But instead, the pussy Graham has forcefully fought military justice reform and worked to undermine his Senate colleagues who have sought such needed reform of the military justice system, often by using his years of service as a military lawyer to justify his opposition. Now, Graham's indifference concerning the military of some lenient treatment of child pornography, compared to his supposed disgust regarding Judge Jackson's sentencing record, is not only fucking hypocritical, it is political theater at its fucking worst. Now how we should sentence child pornography offenders is a fucking legitimate debate, but after decades of inaction on this part to reform the military sentencing process, Graham's sudden concern about child pornography sentencing is no more than a cheap hypocritical and destructive attempt to score political points, which he's failing on. So if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening. And if you want to support my work even further, you could donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of my YouTube channel. And for just a little as a few bucks for a month, you can help further support the channel. And thanks for listening.